Welcome again to another edition of Seekers of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. I'm your host, Rabbi Address, and I greatly appreciate you being with us. These podcasts, we hope to explore the issues that touch us and our families in light of the revolution and longevity that is reshaping our Jewish world and the community. And we appreciate your support. You can follow us and listen to us on previous podcasts by going to our website, jewishsacredaging.com, as well as visiting us on the Jewish Sacred Aging Facebook page. And we are grateful for your donations, which help further our work. And right now, we welcome to the microphone and today's edition of Seekers of Meaning, Thelma Reese, the author of a new book, How Seniors Are Saving the World, which is good news for us, maybe bad news for the world. But this can't get any worse than it is now. Thelma, welcome to Seekers of Meaning. How are you doing today?
Thank you. As well as can possibly be expected, given the time.
Right. This is posting in the beginning of September, but we're recording this about a month and a half earlier, where we're still in pandemic mode. So, first of all, Thelma, welcome again. And this is a very interesting book of essays, various essays of notable seniors, elders who are helping to reshape themselves and, by definition, then reshape their world. And you write in the beginning of the book about your redefinition of the word senior moment, which we've all, I can't speak for all of us, but many of us have experienced that momentary, oh my, what I can't remember that person's name right off the top of my head. I'm having a senior moment. And you write, no. I have a different way of looking at senior moment. How do you define it in your book?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Rabbi, and shalom to you and everyone who is listening or watching. We start saying that and we start hearing it from people as young as 35 or 40. Forget where you put your keys. You forgot where you put the book down. You all of a sudden couldn't think of your neighbor's name when you saw him. And you say, having a senior moment. Well, that suggests that you ascribe forgetting to being older, that you think you're going to forget things, that you're going to decline in some way, that aging is a sense of decline. We associate everything negative with that, what we call a senior moment. And I say, let's redefine senior moment to mean what we're talking about when we discover something good about ourselves because we are older, something that we learned about ourselves that we didn't realize before. For example, you find out that you've really grown up and you start a book and you don't like it and nobody says you have to finish it anymore. You say, this is a senior moment. I don't have to do that. Or you find out that some young person has really looked up to you. If you were a teacher or if you were a neighbor to some young person, and one day you hear, you told me this a long time ago, and I think of it often, or I realize that it helped me. You say to yourself, this is a senior moment when I get to appreciate the fact that I'm older and I've done something that's worth remembering. You become a friend to somebody new. That's a senior moment. You're growing. It shows you that you haven't stopped growing, that you're still not only alive, but functioning and reaching some new understanding about yourself and the world.
A senior moment, in the way you're redefining it, first of all, it's very indicative of Jewish tradition. But I think it's important to understand that you can have these, quote, senior moments, even if you're not in the tip-top shape. And we all know people who are dealing with various types of issues, disabilities, et cetera, who continue to grow, expand, nurture, intellectually curious. So it's important, isn't it not, Thelma, to to understand that this is not limited to just one particular health orientation or
No, it
physical
isn't.
mobility orientation.
Absolutely. And not only is it not related to it, sometimes it is related in a way that, for example, I was thinking the other day about the fact that I have glaucoma now, as my mother had. She lived to be just almost 97 and fortunately had all her marbles. Uh, I'm a lot younger than she was then. I'm only 87, and I realized that as my vision, as measured by the vision tests, gets a little weaker, my inner vision is getting better. I'm seeing a lot about the world and about myself with more clarity than ever. I don't like everything I see, but I see it better. I'm bringing more to that process of seeing and understanding. So that's a kind of compensation, or maybe even better than compensation, an acknowledgement that we continue to grow.
You write a blog called elderchicks.com. Talk to me about that. What is that, and if somebody wants to log on to it, you just go to elderchicks.com. What's the story with Elder Chicks?
Or www.elderchicks.com. You can find it either way. You can probably even find it by typing Dr. Thelma Reese into your Google browser. Elder Chicks started 8 years ago with my original writing partner, Dr. Bobby Fleischer. We wrote The New Senior Woman and then The New Senior Man. And before we started The New Senior Woman, our grown daughters all said, "You ought to have a blog." And we said at that time, 8 years ago, "What's a blog?" And they explained what it was. And my then 12-year-old granddaughter created the logo for Elder Chicks, which was a name that I just came to me one morning when I woke up. And it's been so fascinating, especially this month. We've had so many responses. And once a month, I write a little prompt about a topic, although people can write about anything they want. And people write, sometimes men. And there are many hundreds of followers. Usually about 8 or 10 people will write during that month, and then other people will comment. It's very easy to do, and it's read by many people. And it's so interesting, Rabbi. This month, all of a sudden, we've had a couple of requests for the first time, because sometimes my email address appears on something I send out to a mailing list for Elder Chicks, but you can go on without that. And people will write to me separately and say, "I love what so and so said. Could you send me his or her email address? And I'd like to get in touch personally with that person." So I will try to find that person's email address and ask permission. May I send it to another person who's asking for it? And so 2 outside friendships have been created across country between people who are in no other way connected and yet
Right.
are being woven together by something that they've written in common.
Speaking of things in common, the book, How Seniors Are Saving the World, as I said, is a collection of essays of individuals. Is there something that you would say that all the people that you have the essays from, that they have in common? Is there a thread that unites all these essays together thematically?
Well, it's so fascinating because the 24 people who are really the 24 chapters of the book with some other
Right.
essays interspersed were people that we interviewed from all over the country, from all ethnic groups, men and women. They would appear to have nothing in common except that each has devoted him or herself to some cause, something that has really absorbed them. And what I think my co author, BJ Kittredge, and I came to realize was that all of these people have somehow focused on something beyond themselves. And whether their interest in whatever they did came out of a talent, an illness in the family, a chance encounter with a problem, curiosity, or whatever. It was something that makes them focus not on just on themselves, but on something that needs fixing. Tikkun olam. They all have that in their psyche, that there's something that can be fixed, and I can do something about fixing it. I would say that not one of them started doing what we write about in the interviews with them, and much of the book is in their own words. Did it to be the leader of anything. It was the problem they focused on. It was not their position, not their position in a group. They just want to get something fixed, and I think that leads to an aspect of selflessness that is very inspiring to run into. And what
people should understand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say was at the end of each chapter, there's a section called How to Connect. So if the reader gets interested in that particular person's cause, they can connect with them. They can connect with him, her, the cause, whatever.
You see, you obviously in your progressive senior moment practice mind reading, because I was just about to ask you about that section about how to connect. So congratulations. Now, if you could possibly give me tonight's lottery numbers, I would really appreciate that.
Well, they're in a sealed envelope in my husband's
office. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much.
We were right.
Yeah. You write at the towards the end of the book. I think it's your own writing of this word revolutionary, but you spell it with a small r and then capital evolutionary. So
right.
it's a good way to sort of like end the book. It really takes the theme of what you said. This is a revolutionary moment in life. Could you talk to me about how you unpack the small r and then evolutionary?
I did that because it's a time of such change. We're living through, heaven knows, the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. We're doing more than that. It's more than interesting. Anyway, we're living in very interesting times. We're seeing revolution and perhaps, I hope, evolution all around us. But in ourselves, we have an opportunity to keep evolving. And one of the pleasures of meeting the people in this book, one of the oldest people in the book is Dr. Kleiman of San Francisco, who is now 91 and still flying his own plane down to the border regularly. He's a psychoanalyst who's always worked with children with problems. And he's a very brilliant, wonderful man. And he works with those kids who have been separated and so forth. And I had the opportunity to talk with him about that whole, that whole process of continued development, that when we reach a certain stage of life, we don't stop. Those of us who are still fortunate not to have Alzheimer's. I'm not saying that everybody gets to do this. I'm saying that you get to do it if you still are thinking clearly. If you're thinking clearly, you can really continue to grow and be curious and find out what is next and what is my way of contributing in some way. So it's an evolutionary time still for us. And it's revolutionary in that we're the first to be living this way, this long.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And expect to live this long. We expect
And
it. And
right,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I see my parents' generation as the first generation that began to push the envelope. But the baby boomers now, we expect to live into our 80s, 90s, and 100. We do. And medical technology is helping us realize that.
Exactly. The late, great Bobby Fleischer, my partner in the first two books, used to say, the science is up to our doctors, the art is up to us. How we live is up to us. And she was very inspired by a man who's in the book about the new senior man who was almost 100, blind, and still lecturing in the senior community where he lived. He would give marvelous lectures on Einstein, on physics in general. He had been a science teacher all his life. He loved doing it. It kept him going. It kept others inspired and informed. Everybody has something really to give and to congratulate and appreciate about oneself. My mother used to use appreciate all the time. Yeah, without uh, without an object, and I would say, "Mom, her English was perfect." I'd say, "It's a transitive verb. You appreciate something," and she'd say, "No, I just appreciate." And I think it worked.
No, it works, and that's the look. We're seeing all these institutions and organizations like Encore and stuff really celebrate the fact that so many people, elders, are choosing to continue to give back to society in a variety of different ways, as so many of the people in your book do. And the book is available, I would imagine, through Amazon and the usual outlets.
Oh yes,
And elderchicks.com is your blog. And
exactly.
you are correct. You are correct that, and the people in the book, and we're seeing so much revolutionary and programming and growth with individuals and learning and explosions of adult learning. But I have to ask you, one of the great challenges that we're living with now as a result of COVID, and we see this a lot in our Jewish sacred aging work and working with congregations, is this isolation factor. The fact that so many people are isolated. They just can't, for a variety of reasons. They may be living alone, but the reality is they've been told, if you go out and you're 90 or you're 80 or 7, you really take the chance of dying. So in
Exactly.
your work, in your blog, and in your involvement, how do you begin to talk to people about how to deal with this isolation, which is really pandemic in itself?
That's the word for it. I agree totally, and and I feel it myself. Our children are on the West Coast, and I really feel at my age sometimes a kind of terror. Will I ever actually see them in person again? And yet I have to be grateful that I saw my twin grandchildren just graduate from Brandeis. I could watch it on my computer, even though none of us could be there, including them. And
Right, right.
these are things that we have to say. In another time, we wouldn't even have seen each other, let alone talk to each other. When we think about our forebears who came here thinking they would never see their families again, and they never did. because they left Romania, Russia, Germany, wherever, Austria, like mine. And we have to realize that we have advantages that they never had, and that we have ways of communicating, and we have ways of somehow doing something about this isolation. And isolation is the big killer for many seniors. It really is. So you have to say, now that I'm a senior, I'm also a grown up, and I'm going to be the role model that I want to be for my kids, for my grandkids. And I want to show them that in a time like this, that they'll always remember having lived through, that there are different ways now that we can communicate. And we have advantages we never had before. And I can Google all day if I need to. I can watch things that I couldn't watch before. I can talk to and see loved ones in ways that I couldn't. And that's do our best to do it that way and realize that revolution brings evolution and we have to evolve.
The idea of gratitude, as you're talking about it, and even in the midst of a difficult time and isolation, the challenge, as you're so correctly pointing out, is to find a blessing within the midst of this, and which is a very Jewish response. We don't lose that sense of hope. We don't lose that sense of, even though things are a challenge, there's a tomorrow, and there's a hope that things will get better. And hopefully they will.
Get better, and that we can do something to make them better. The people in the book, who range in age from 60 to 95, are all making it better in some way.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're not miserable at times. It doesn't mean they haven't gone through horrendous things, some of them. And some of them just somehow put whatever they've got into something that's making things better for everybody else in a way. So I think we can be inspired.
Before we run out of time, I just want to ask you this one last question. Easy question, softball question, because it's come up a lot in the last several months, and some people are starting to write about it. Are you seeing, as a result of some of this pandemic and the isolation and some of the ethical challenges that are being forced upon medical professionals, are you seeing any type of a rise in ageism, where there really is an attempt to isolate our generation and basically say, your time is over, we're focusing all on the youth?
Mainly from the lieutenant governor of Texas, who thinks,
well, he's a hockey,
okay.
He's off the wall.
Right. He's off the wall.
But other than, yeah.
But I do worry. I do worry about ageism being a factor that we're being seen, while we're being seen as the most vulnerable, because in many cases we are physically vulnerable, that this paints elders as being a weak part of society instead of part of the strength that we have. This is a strength for the world. This is a strength for society. And when we get to 2030, when people over 65 are as great in number as people who are kids, this is going to be another big shock to the system. So I think we better get over the ageism stuff and better start understanding, celebrating, appreciating, and using what seniors have to give. I like to call it seniority, because I think that says something important itself. We've reached seniority.
I think it goes back to your redefinition of the senior moment, which I think is empowering and very thought-provoking. Thelma Reese, the blogger of elderchicks.com, the author of How Seniors Are Saving the World, with your co-author B.J. Kittredge, available on the usual places, including the great God Amazon. And Thelma, continued success. I wish you just stay healthy and take care of yourself and your family.
And the same.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, thank you again for listening to this edition of Secrets of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. And a reminder that you can follow us on our website, jewishsacredaging.com, and our Facebook page on Jewish Sacred Aging. We appreciate your support. If you'd like to, can make a tax-free donation to help us continue our work and these podcasts. Just go back to the homepage, jewishsacredaging.com, and click on the icon button that says donate. If you'd like to get in touch with us for suggestions or comments, just email me at Rabbi Address at jewishsacredaging.com. These podcasts are recorded at the studios of Lubetkin Global Media in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and are produced by Steve Lubetkin. Again, thank you for being with us. We look forward to greeting you on our next Secrets of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. Todah and Shalom.